lockdown is social media and digital marketing strategist, trainer, lecturer, media commentator, award-winning entrepreneur, and regular on Australia's business speaking circuit. She is responsible for starting the State of Social conference and is the founder of #SMPerf. Welcome to I'll Meet You in Lockdown, Meg Coffey.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Now, let's talk about your backstory. You're Texan born. Give us a rundown of the Meg Coffey story.
Oh, it's a long one, so I'll give you the abridged version. Basically, yes, I did grow up in Texas. However, I've been in Australia since 2002. I came over as a backpacker. So I graduated uni, went to the University of Southern California, greatest U.S. college football team in history of college football. And then graduated, ironically, at a time when there were no jobs. The economy wasn't that great. The world was in a bit of a turmoil, a bit like now.
A bit like now.
So I said, you know what, I'm going to go traveling. And I came to Australia, and I'm the worst backpacker ever. I came to Perth, and that was in 2002, and I'm still in Perth. But I did do a little bit of traveling. You know, I went up the East Coast, and I went up the West Coast of Australia, and I just fell in love, and like most backpackers, overstayed my visa. So quickly had to go to New Zealand because I knew that I wanted to stay in this part of the world and that I wanted to be involved in tourism and in travel. Mm-hmm. And so I started working for Accor when I was in New Zealand. And I was there for 3 years until I stayed long enough to be allowed back into Australia, and then transferred, and I was on Magnetic Island for a little while. I don't know if you've ever been to Magnetic Island, but it is off Townsville. One of the most beautiful places outside of Perth. And then in 2008, I moved back to Perth because I knew that that's where my heart was. So it was sort of a long, roundabout way to get here with a lot of backpacking or working with backpackers in between. But I love it, and here I am now.
That's wonderful. So how did you get into the social side of things?
I think that was sort of by default. So because I was a backpacker, you know, I couldn't get a real job. I mean, I had every single visa that you imagined. And so I started bartending and working, and I worked my way up. I have a degree in marketing. I graduated with a degree in marketing and advertising. So I worked my way up, and I was working for bars and restaurants, and I finally got a company to sponsor me. And this would have been in 2007, 2008. Right when social media was starting, and I, as the marketing manager, was given zero budget. Like I had to somehow market a brand new restaurant, a brand new venue on $0. So I said to myself, well, what is this Facebook thing that we have here? And I'd always been into computers. I'm a super nerd. I was lucky our family had a computer back when you know, computers were first sort of getting started. And I loved playing with them. So it came naturally to me. So I started using social media to market and build the profile of the brand. Then I just sort of went from there. In 2012, I got a new job working for a hotel. And I had some really progressive owners. And I said, look, I think there's something here in this digital world. And I think if you just let me do this, I think that we can be one of the very best in the country at social, or I can get us a heck of a lot of promotion on almost no budget. Let me use your budget on PR or influencers or different things. Because in 2012, this was all different. Yeah. So to your question, how did I get started? By default, I was a marketing manager that was given no budget, and I had to be resourceful. And social media was a way, and I still believe to this day, is a way that anybody can communicate with the world really inexpensively. The investment is the time. The investment is creating the content. It's not necessarily that expensive to get started.
So you're self-taught from that perspective. You sort of gave yourself your own, sort of looked up on YouTube of how to is that how you sort of got started from that point with social? Like, did you teach yourself?
Well, I guess baptism by fire, and just playing around with it in the early days and having an interest in it in myself, and having profiles for myself and understanding, I do believe that my background in traditional marketing and the fact that I had those learnings to fall back on, the media buying, the structure of journalism and business. I think that really helped me learn how to adapt or how to apply strategy to social media.
Yeah, so you had that foundation. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But it's all self-taught. I mean, but I go to far out. I travel. I'm so sad. It's been a month since I've been on a plane, and that's the longest it's been in so long, because I go to conferences. I'm always learning. I read everything that I possibly can to try and find out what's the latest and what's happening, and how can I make this work for business.
So that's my next question for you. Who do you think's doing it well, social media wise, in business at the moment?
Well, I think it's hard. I think right now, because we're, had you asked me this question a month ago, I would have had completely different answers for you, because social media and the way that we communicate has completely changed at the moment. And this time of COVID, it is, I forget that we're on a podcast and they won't see my air quotes. So for those of you listening along, if you hear sarcasm, there's some air quotes going on. The brands that are doing it well are the ones that are being honest. I mean, one of my all-time favorite brands on social, I'm not going to lie, is Aviation Gin. Have you seen them?
No, I don't believe so.
All right, so Aviation Gin is an American gin company that's part owned by the actor Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
The really good-looking, gorgeous Ryan Reynolds. Okay. So, and the marketing that brand is doing is incredible. And there's a gentleman named Adrian Molina, and Adrian is the guy that actually runs the social media for Aviation Gin. And I just think they have nailed tone at the moment. They nail tone all the time, but especially now, they know how to say it, and they have the ability to get content created quickly. And to get it distributed, and by using social media, it's not costing them much. They're not having to pay these big ad bills to get on television or in print. I just love everything Aviation Gin is doing, and I'm not a gin drinker, so yeah, it's an interesting one.
Oh, that's terrific. We'll have to, no doubt you'll have everybody that is watching or is listening to this podcast. They'll be looking up. You'll have to be an ambassador for them next.
Yes, no, Epsilon Tequila, that's the one that I want.
Oh, there you go. Looks like you like a wine too there in the background. You've got your stuff there in the background.
Yeah, I don't mind a good drink or two. When I was the marketing manager for the hotel, I also had to write the wine list. And so one of the downsides is I fell in love with wine, and now I'm obsessed with it.
And we need it at the moment, don't we, in lockdown?
Yes, definitely.
Now, what makes a great Insta story in your eyes?
I think what you just said, a story. Something that's going to tell me a story, something that's going to keep me engaged. I think what we need to look at is there's two different ways of looking at Instagram stories. There's looking at it as just that one singular piece of content that you put up, which might be a photo or a video or something that has one of the stickers on it. Or you might look at your Insta story as a collection of stories, a few different videos, a few different things. Like, for example, I went to Social Media Marketing World in the US in March. And then through my Instagram stories, I documented the flight home. So I started a timer, and I was like, all right, here we go. And it's going to take me 36 hours or whatever to get from San Diego to Perth. And I documented the whole way through in my stories. What makes that good? It's engaging. There's a hook. There's a reason for people to keep paying attention. There's a reason you're making it enticing for them. Okay? Otherwise, when we talk about just a singular story, what makes a good story? Well, again, it's something that's engaging. You want to get people to stop. You want to get people to think and listen to the music you picked, or engage with the question that you've asked, or the rating scale that you can move up and down. What makes a good story? Something that makes people go, oh, and stop and engage.
Yeah. I think I love to hear really good music. That will hook me often if I'm looking at an Insta story or even a brand storytelling, say on LinkedIn, if the music is catchy, it will grab me straight away. But as you say, if there's some sort of a brand, I think with brand storytelling, when there is, you're waiting for that next episode, I like those sort of stories too. So yeah, no, that's great. Now let's talk followers. What is your advice to someone starting in business at the moment, who is wanting to grow their followers, and what's the secret ingredient?
I think authenticity and giving back as much as you take. So you can't just go out there and you can't just sort of post, here I am, look at me, and not engage with anyone else. If people leave you comments, it's no different than Facebook. You need to engage with those comments. You need to reply. You need to say thank you, or, I appreciate you taking the time to leave this feedback. But it's not just that. You need to also go out and find other accounts and engage with other accounts on their photos. And it's not a case of, like, there was an account here in Perth a couple of years ago, and sort of they went out there and they just spammed everyone with their hashtag on every single photo. They would just post, and they wouldn't add a comment that was useful. It was just, this is their hashtag. And their hope was that if they posted it enough, people would see that hashtag and they'd start using it. Several years later, yes, we do use that hashtag, but you never feel good about it. It's one of those, like, spammy ones, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what you want to go out there and do is go out there and leave comments. I don't always believe in everything that Gary Vaynerchuk says. Gary V. I don't know if you know him, but
absolutely. I was going to discuss him with you, actually.
Okay, well, so he calls this his $1.80 strategy, right?
Yeah,
so you go out there and you leave 2 cents, your 2 cents, until you've left $1.80. And I think, that's 90 comments. That's a lot. But I think find your own happy medium in there. But go out there and leave comments. You have to give more than you take out there to get followers. Yeah.
I think. And do you agree with this? Maybe, or maybe you can steer me in another direction. If you're in a niche market in your business, so say for example, I have an over 50s travel website, Senior Stays. If you sort of engaged, I find for me, my platform is LinkedIn from a business point of view, Facebook for Senior Stays for a following. Instagram, I find really difficult with Senior Stays. I don't seem to get that same, just can't get the followers. But I think, and I've actually put in somebody in place to help me with that. But the thing is, I think if you engage in comment in the right way, I can see how people would look at that. But I see a lot of comments that they're not meaningful, or they don't mean anything. If it's a niche market, I think I think you're in a better position to gain followers.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many things about what you just said that are awesome. So yes, there were so many. That's a big word. I can't say it this early in the morning. There's so many useless comments out there, right? So many comments that are spammy. So many comments that are obviously from robots or from automated things. And that's not at all what you want to be. You want to be leaving, useful, helpful, engaging comments if you're going to do it. And yes, you're totally right. In a niche audience, it's way easier to grow your followers at the moment, because I think, I'm going to go off on so many tangents. Hold on, Meg. Hold it all in. You made me excited. People want that niche stuff. Like before, I think a lot of problems that we have in the world right now is that it used to be, if you had crazy ideas, you were sort of siloed. You didn't have anywhere you could go to have those ideas met or, joined with other people. Now you can jump on the internet and find someone that has the weird, crazy idea that you do. And then we can go from there. So yes, so niche, we like niche things. And then also what you were saying about finding your platform is spot on exactly. Where's your audience? Like, I think that there's some people who are banging their heads against the wall going, why don't I have followers on Instagram? And I'm like, mate, you're a plumber. and you're showing dirty pipes. Like, no one's going to follow that.
Oh, that's funny. Exactly. But then having said that, I saw some really great stories the other day from an electrician. I don't know whether you saw this recently, and the electricians, well, there's nothing much you can do there, but the guys that work there, they sing while they work.
Yeah.
And so that has become a big following for their business of the boys singing every day or dancing or doing this TikTok stuff, you know.
Exactly, TikTok. The dentists that have the TikTok accounts that have now had to open up more clinics because they're so popular. So yes, you, the plumber, can be on Instagram and can make it successful for you. But what is your niche? What are you doing? What are you showing? What are you offering me, a follower, that's interesting enough to make me want to follow you? Not just come and engage with a one-off photo, but actually be like, do you know what? Like, how cool are plumbers? I want to see content from them on a regular basis.
Yeah.
You know, that's that niche that we talked about. So then it's delivering content that's interesting. You know, maybe that's funny. I think funny content, I think that's why TikTok also is working so well right now, is we're all really stressed out and depressed and like, what is going on with the world? So we need fun stuff. Like, we want to laugh. We want to be happy.
Yeah, and I think TikTok is doing very well at the moment with all these people in lockdown. They're finding that I've seen so many families that I know, my own friends, who are engaging in TikTok, and it's lighthearted, isn't it? It's terrific.
Yeah, I was talking to my brother and sister about it. There's no way that my father would do it. No way. Like, we wouldn't even ask him to do that. Like, can you imagine? I love it though. There's so many good ones. My dog, I don't have a TikTok because there's absolutely no point for me. I am a middle-aged white woman. There's nothing I do of interest, like on TikTok. Do you know what I mean? But like my dog Henry, he has a TikTok, and we actually have a lot of fun. As you said, playing with music and finding the right songs to match the actions.
That's great.
TikTok's fun.
Yeah. Now, with Zoom has become a really popular platform, especially at the moment, once again, with a lot of people working from home. Are there any other platforms or upcoming platforms? It used to be Skype, and people are still using Skype, but what's becoming more popular at the moment, or is there any other new ones coming in that you know of?
Well, I feel bad for Skype, because they had the chance. They were the first. They were the ones, you know, and they just have completely not even, I mean, there are people that use it, but not really. You know, Zoom has come out of nowhere. I've had a Zoom account for quite a long time. It's what I actually use to deliver all the webinars that we run through Social Media Perth. And so Zoom is something that, to me, was never a social media platform. It was a video delivery system, I guess. Yeah. In a way. And now with all of this, you know, it has really come out of nowhere. To go back and be able to have the knowledge to put, you know, some money in the stock market on Zoom, would that be good?
Yeah.
You know, I think it's an interesting one. There's one called House Party. Again, House Party has been around for a really long time. You know, you might have heard of it. I think Hamish Blake was crashing people's house parties.
Yes, I have heard that.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I think one of the conversations I've been having with a lot of my colleagues is not every call needs to be a video call. You know, like we've had FaceTime for a very long time. Did we ever use it? No. Yeah. So why all of a sudden do we need to jump up on Zoom calls? Now I get it. I get that we're using it because it is actually awesome that I can see you, and that I feel like we have a much better connection and communication because I can see you, than if I was just, say, sitting here on my phone or with my headsets, possibly distracted by what was on my screen or my dog. But Zoom, I don't know, I think there's going to be some really interesting case studies about it, and then when we come out the other side, do we still use it, or is this a flash in the pan thing? Yeah. You know, families having quiz nights that never would have had quiz nights together before. Do they still communicate? Yeah.
There's your mate Henry there in the background.
Yeah, that's Henry. He's being very well behaved. I'm very impressed. He's quiet.
He's gorgeous. He's gorgeous. Well, for those who are listening and they can't see this, we're talking about the dog.
Oh, yes, not a child. Henry is my 35-kilo Labradoodle who thinks that he is a lap dog, even though he is taller than some people.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Now, social media platforms, sometimes like with Instagram, we went from Instagram, just images, then we had the Insta stories and IGTV. Can you share with us anything else that you know about with other platforms that may be new or that we may not know about, or it's coming, that's on the horizon at the moment?
Yeah, there's things are always changing, and I think one of the most interesting sort of changes at the moment is what's happening in stories. You'll see that Twitter has launched fleets, which are their version of stories. LinkedIn has stories. Instagram has just completely reworked how stories work. Because once again, they are petrified by someone. So, they were worried about Snapchat, so they basically just reverse engineered Snapchat and made their own. Now they're worried about TikTok, so they're adding new features every day. What was I reading this morning? There's some really cool features that are rolling out in the US and hopefully globally, that have to do with buying gift vouchers directly from Instagram. I think someone to really, really follow on all the socials at the moment would be Adam Mazzari, and his handles are just the @ and then MOSSERI Mazzari, or maybe only one R, MOSSERI. Anyways, Google Adam Mazzari. He's the head of Instagram, right? And he's brilliant. So he's talking a lot on his Twitter at the moment about all of the upcoming changes, because they are making so many changes right now. Every day there's something new that's coming out. And then on Fridays, he does these sort of like ask me anythings on his Instagram. And you can actually ask him questions, and he sits there for like an hour and he just talks about what's happening with Instagram and how to use features and why you should use certain features. And this is the head of Instagram that is telling you this. There is no better source. Don't listen to any other expert. This is the man to listen to.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Because there's so many changes that are happening. Because I think what's happening with the platforms is the platforms are looking at this opportunity. Social media usage has just skyrocketed as a result of all of us being at home. Okay. Excuse me. We are absolutely addicted to our phones. Like, I have had to turn that screen time Notification warning off because I'm hitting it by like 2:00 every day, right?
Yeah.
So social media usage is just absolutely out of control, skyrocketing. So I think what the platforms are realizing is that they need to, maybe not need to, but this is an opportunity for them to, as they call, ship or build and release new programs, new features, get people hooked. I don't think that TikTok would have been as popular this quickly if we hadn't had this lockdown. Yes, it is the #1 app in the world. Yes, everybody's on it, but not everybody was on it.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
So when you ask me what's new and what's happening, by the time that your listeners are listening to this podcast, it's all going to be old news.
Yeah.
Because it's changing. So my advice for right now, but for always, but especially for right now, is follow Adam Mazzari, because he's just brilliant in the information that he's giving out. And that's how you'll find out. He even talks about other platforms, because they'll say like, why do you do this and not this? And he gives his opinion.
That's brilliant.
He's my #1. Yeah,
I'll be looking him up. No, that sounds great. Now, the big question a lot of people always ask, or there's a lot of controversy over this, is hashtags. How many should we be using on platforms like LinkedIn, say, versus Instagram?
Yeah. All right. So there is a lovely woman named Jen Herman, and what I'm about to tell you is 100% her strategy, but it works. Okay. So you need to look at this. You need to look at the platforms. Now, yes, on Instagram, you can use up to 30 hashtags. Do you need to? Not necessarily, right? What you need to figure out with the hashtags is what are the hashtags that are actually going to be relevant to you? What are the hashtags that are going to be, why are you using these hashtags, right? Are you using hashtags to get new followers? Are you using hashtags? There's a whole bunch. We could talk for a half hour on hashtags. Yeah. But basically, to answer your question, how many should we use, right? Well, you've got these big, massive hashtags, right? The hashtags that have hundreds of thousands of photos tagged to them. You only probably want 1 to 2 of those hashtags, right? Like, sure, you could use hashtag love, the most used hashtag in the world. But why would you? Because it's the most used hashtag in the world. Everyone's using it. If you're using hashtags to get your photos discovered, to get new followers, it's not going to stay on the top of the feed long enough for people to see your photo, right?
Right.
Because it'll be gone within seconds.
Yeah.
So you don't want to look at these hashtags that have millions and millions of tags. You want to look at the ones that have, a couple 100,000, right? And you want like 1 or 2 of those, right?
Okay.
Then you're going to look at your medium tier ones. And these are the hashtags that are under 100,000, right? And you're probably going to pick like 3 to 5 of these hashtags that are under 100,000 uses, right? And then you're going to go and you're probably going to pick, 2 to 3 niche hashtags, right? That are really specific. Like for you, I would use hashtag senior stays for you because that's your brand name, right?
Yeah, brand
then
name.
You would also, but then you would also go and find some other niche ones like, senior living travel or, gray nomad travel or some maybe some more specific ones that are in the thousands of hashtags tagged to that.
Yeah, like
right?
baby boomer and like that's what we tend to use. Yeah.
So you need to go and you need to look and to the strategy that Jen has, and it's something that she's shared widely. If you've seen her, Jen Herman's her name, and it really works. It's 1 to 2 of these really big ones, 3 to 5 is sort of these medium, 2 to 3 of these niche ones. What's the math on that? That's about 10 to 20. Okay. So
right.
Yes, you can use 30 hashtags on Instagram. Do you need to? No. 10 to 20 is probably pretty good.
Okay. So then say LinkedIn, what would you suggest there? Because that there's, I know I've heard different things with that there should only be maximum 3 hashtags.
Yeah. I say 3 to 5, maximum 5.
Okay.
Yeah, completely different. No hashtags on Facebook. Stop putting hashtags on Facebook. No. Twitter, one hashtag on Twitter.
Is that right? Just 1 for Twitter. There you go.
Yeah.
I've just learned something new. 1 for Twitter.
Yeah, well, with Twitter, you don't want to overcomplicate it. Twitter, the way that Twitter is working best at the moment is when the tweets are simple and clear. And when you put too many hashtags in, it complicates it. Have 1 clear, clean message, and that's what your hashtag should be. So
say like there's 2 different hashtags, say like travel. So one of my questions was, say, with hotel lobbies. So I might post a beautiful picture of a hotel lobby. I would usually use travel, hashtag travel, hashtag hotel lobby, and I might use a hotel, maybe the hotel brand, for example.
Yeah.
Accor or IHG or something like along those lines. What's your opinion of that? Is that what would you do if that was?
I'm pulling my phone up really quickly because hashtag travel, right? When I look in Instagram and I search travel and I go under tags, travel has 485 million posts.
Yeah.
Okay. The chances are, and you can't see this because obviously it's a podcast and also video doesn't work. But when I look at this feed here with travel, right? The whole point of you using hashtag travel is to end up on this feed here so that when I look hashtag travel, I see things. Because like when I was going to Sri Lanka, I had no idea about Sri Lanka, right? Nothing. So I started following hashtag Sri Lanka to try and learn more. The thing is, 485 million posts. The chances of you staying here is really, really, really slim.
Sure.
So I actually wouldn't be using hashtag travel. I'd be doing something like, and you put me on the spot here, and so these are just random ones. Like, don't quote me. You know, but I pull the phone out and I'd look in, you know, and I'd look at like high-end travel, or luxury travel, or gorgeous travel, or hotel travel, you know, accommodation. What are some of these other ones that aren't so big, but ones that will actually allow me to stay on the top of the feed?
Yeah, so once again, niching, bringing it down to a niche. Yeah.
Yeah. Because everyone's using travel. Travel's like love. You know, like obviously it's a travel pick. So let's not use that one. Definitely use a core. Now, a core is probably going to have, I didn't look a core up, but a core is probably going to have a lot as well. But, you know, it's finding the ones that, and you just pull your phone out, just do a little bit of research, and I could talk about hashtags for hours.
Good advice. Now, there is another question I want to ask in relation to LinkedIn, not to do with hashtags, but in relation to linking to another page. So on LinkedIn at the moment, I remember years ago I'd be posting articles or a post, and I would link it to my website or link it to something that I've been watching or whatever, you know, it could be a YouTube channel or something. And I've been told that, and what's happened is that not as many people are looking at your article, or the article's not being seen if you are linking outside of LinkedIn. Can you explain anything about that?
Yeah, so that's an easy one. LinkedIn hates links. Every social media platform hates links, because when you put a link post up, when you put a link, you are driving someone to an external site. Mm-hmm. And when you drive them to an external site, that platform can't make money off them anymore. That platform can't capture data off them anymore. All right? So Facebook, LinkedIn, they hate it when we paste links in, when we make what you're referring to is called a link post. So it's a post with a link. They hate it. So how do you get around it? Well, there's some people that say by posting, you make your post and you put a photo up, or it's a normal post, and then you put the link in the first comment. Can't really see my face on a podcast. I don't love that idea. To me, it's, you know, what are we linking to? I think we go back and we look at it. You know, I think this is where LinkedIn is driving people to use their article feature, right? So if it's you linking to a blog post that you've written, that's them saying, we'd rather that you wrote this as an article, air quotes.
Right, yeah.
On our page. Now, if it's you linking to, you know, here's a really interesting article about travel post-COVID, you know, that's you sharing your knowledge and your authority and things like that. I don't really have an answer for you on how to get around that, other than that you are right. LinkedIn doesn't like it when we paste links in, because it drives people off the platform.
So you best really say we're promoting the podcast, for example. You would say that you can listen to this on iTunes, but not link to that. So you can put that in. That sort of way of message out there, I suppose.
It is, but then it's annoying for your users, because I don't want to have to open up iTunes and find it and like give me the link. Like you know. Quick serve, make me, you know, satisfy my need right then. You know, it's LinkedIn being a social media platform going, if you want links to work, you need to use sponsored posts. You need to pay us as advertisements. Yeah. Because we're not going to promote it for free.
Well, that's great advice too. There'll be a lot of marketers out there listening to this, and sales and marketing, and that's great advice too, because a lot of people have different ideas about how that'll work. So it's great for you to clear all this up for us. Now, with social media, can you give us a good news story about social media that you have come across?
Oh yeah, I was thinking about this one because I'm all about the good news at the moment. I don't want going to use aviation gin again because we've already talked about them. But I think maybe, okay, have you heard of We Rate Dogs?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay.
No.
This is the best account you have ever heard of in your life. They rate dogs. Like they like how many out of 10? And of course, there's never anything under 10 because it's dogs. They would never be anything less than 10. They're all good boys and girls, right?
Yeah.
And they have been doing some, it's okay, so there's two accounts. There's the We Rate Dogs, and then there is the Dog Father.
So are they rating the different dogs that there are, or the actual
people submit dogs. Like there'll be one, and it'll be like a black lab swimming, right? And then the account will go, this account is for dogs only, not seals. Please do not submit your photos of seals. You know, or like, and then there's the other one, and they're tied together, and it's Sebastian, and this is the one that, you know, he's like, and this is as if a dog could tweet, right? And he's like, I've noticed that the humans are home a lot lately. I like it because I get cuddles, and you're just like, oh
yeah.
So those are my good news at the moment. I think anything with animals, because the whole world is just too crazy at the moment. So my good news, yeah.
Now, what's the most exciting social media project that you have worked on?
Yeah, okay. So maybe back in 2012, when we opened the Terrace Hotel, which was a hotel here in Perth, and it was one of the first hotels to open in 5 or 6 years. It was a boutique hotel. We only had 15 rooms, right? So as part of the launch strategy, and this is what I was saying earlier in the podcast about how I had some incredible bosses that allowed me to just kind of run with things. So what we did is we did this thing called the social media sleepover. So as part of the launch strategy, we had 16 different people come and stay with us, right? So we had a food blogger who was going to, you know, review the food. We had a couple who was going to, you know, check the romance of the hotel. We had a fashionista because it was a very fashion forward, you know, very art driven hotel. So we had all these different people. Tourism Australia joined us. I can't even remember all of the people, but it was 16 of us. And we played a real-time game of Cluedo. Yeah, so, you know, what room did this happen in? And what suite did that happen in? And we got the whole thing sponsored, you know, it was free wine. And this was like back before influencers were a thing, right? So we were like, you know, and our lovely wine by Forest Hill, and our, you know, meat by Tory Butchers, and all of that. And we played it out online, and then you could guess who, I don't remember, killed or did whatever. And if you guessed correctly, you won a night and a dinner voucher at the hotel once we opened. This campaign was awesome. We won so many awards for this campaign. It was just fun. And it was at the start of social media, so we really didn't know, like we were trying things, and we never, you know, people didn't run polls on social media. It was the first time we learned about trolls and how you can game polls and fake, you know, winners. And yeah, social media sleepover, hands down, the best campaign, the most fun campaign I've done.
How did you get involved in State of Social? What made you sort of start that up? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about it?
Yeah, so the State of, I wish you could see my smile at the moment. This is my baby. It's my project. It's something I never thought that I would ever do, but something that I absolutely love. So as I said, I have been to every single conference, And because I live in Perth, that gets expensive. You know, you got to travel across the country. You got the airfare, you got accommodation, you got ticket price, because I always pay for my tickets. I never ask for freebies. You know, I want to have the full experience, and I support, you know, these people. I respect, well, in the beginning, I respect what the majority of them do. And I kind of just got really tired of going to these conferences and them being really average. And I went to this one particular one that I really wanted to go, and I turned down some work opportunities. You know, I turned down earning money to be able to go and spend a fair bit to go to this one. And it was a pitch fest. it was, this is who I am and how amazing I am. Look at me. And I was just like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never coming to this again. So I started State of Social, which is a social media and digital marketing conference. I should have prefaced that. And I said, all right, so I'm going to do this event in Perth because I love Perth. Perth is one of the greatest cities in the world. I'm heavily involved in tourism and I want to show my city off. My city deserves a conference that is epic. And there is nothing in Australia of this caliber. And sure, maybe that says I have an ego, maybe it's not. But I've taken the best pieces of a lot of different conferences, and I have compiled what I now believe is Australia's best social media. I think it's one of Australia's best conferences, right? But it is a social media and digital marketing conference. We get international speakers, which will be interesting this year. Hopefully, the conference was meant to be June 23rd and 24th, but we've had to move it to the end of November.
Right.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, great.
I'm hoping that all my speakers can, all my international speakers can come in. I've actually got one of your previous guests on this podcast, Georgia Ricard, is meant to be coming.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, terrific. She's terrific.
Yeah, I love her.
A big cheerleader for Perth too, and WA in general.
Exactly. And so, the conference started off as this sort of like one-off thing that I was going to do just because Perth deserved it. And here we are in our third year, and it is my goal to make this conference one of 3 global conferences. First one being Social Media Marketing World, the biggest and the best in the world. Second being Content Marketing World, the biggest and the best at content. And then State of Social, which is, hopefully on a par of those.
And how many people are attending? Because it's grown, hasn't it? It's it's over 5,000, or is it?
No. We're not that big yet. We're not that big. So 226 the first year, 450 last year. I had hoped for 750 this year. With everything COVID, I don't know how many we'll get. Look, I've got to reassess everything. All my projections, everything's out the window now. Part of it is having the international speakers that nobody else can get. I mean, last year we had Chris Messina, the guy that invented the hashtag.
Amazing. Yeah.
But if I can't have international speakers come, I've got to completely change how I do things. So I don't know how many we'll get this year. I can't think about that yet.
Oh, well, best of luck with it. I hope it all turns out right for you. But I mean, sometimes we need these times to rethink and re-strategize, and you never know. You never know what you may come up with.
Yeah, and that's it. I think on that note, I think it's okay if people do come out of this and they don't have a new skill, or they've done nothing but watch all of Netflix. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I know for myself, I was really burnt out, and I kind of took the first 2 weeks of this and I was like, do you know what? I actually like this. I hate saying that, but I liked the quiet and I liked the calm. And now I'm ready to go out there again. And now I'm ready to rethink and redo, or, I built an email template last night because I was energized to do it. I think people need to give themselves a break and work when you feel it, and when you don't feel it, that's okay too, because this is a crazy time.
Isn't it? It's like a cycle, really, when you think about it. We start, when this happened, we were in shock, and I think we were, grieving almost for our businesses, and then that sort of turned to, as you said, all of a sudden, this isn't actually too bad. It's nice being at home and hanging out with, the family at home, and going for walks when you feel like it. And so there's that side, but I'm getting to that stage now where I'm going, all right, enough. I've had enough.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked from home for years, so I guess I'm used to that side of it. Yeah. But the house has never been cleaner or more organized. I've also never drank so much tequila. It's an interesting time.
It is. Just with if you wouldn't mind, if you could give us some advice to people that are maybe working on their own personal brand or a new business brand, social-wise, where would you start on what social platforms would you suggest to them to start straight away on?
My initial response to that was Facebook, but I think actually it might be Instagram. I think it depends where it is you're trying to build this. What is your personal brand? Are you a fashion person? Well, then you should be on Instagram. Are you dealing in, an older generation? Then maybe you should be on Facebook. Are you a B2B, business to business? Are you trying to, then maybe you need to be on LinkedIn. I think it comes back to what's your industry, and then you got to go back, and we talked about this at the beginning of the podcast. Where are your people?
Yeah.
Okay, and then figure out where your people are, and then that's where you go.
Good advice. Now, influencer marketing, social media. Can you share your thoughts now? How do you feel it's changed? Do you think there's a future for it? Because there's been some bad influencers out there, and there's been some bad stories about influencers, but then there's been some great news stories on influencers, people that have very small followings but are considered, micro influencers and more, that they make more of an impact sometimes than these larger influencers. What's your take on that?
Influencers, that's another topic I could talk for hours on. Look, I don't know if you follow John Lethlean on Instagram, the food reviewer from the Australian.
Sorry, John
Lethlean. So he's the food reviewer. Highly recommend that you follow him. He loves influencers. He hates them. He hates them so much. Look, I think you'd have to be pretty brave to be an influencer asking for a free meal or a free hotel room when we come out the other side of this. I would not look kindly on anyone that asked me for something free when we got to the other side of this. I think we need to all support each other. So I think, yes, it has changed. I think to your point about micro influencers, to be honest, those are the ones that I work with with my clients, because they still want it more. The influence, air quotes, hasn't gone to their head yet. So they don't think they're too big to do something. They still talk to all of their followers. They're engaged with all of their followers. I love the micro influencers. They're far more powerful and cheaper to work with. I think influencer marketing definitely has a place, and 100% still has a place, but I think it has changed. And I think we're gonna have to relook at the way that we go about it and how we as businesses engage with them, and more than ever ensure that we're getting a return on that investment.
Good advice once again. Good advice. Now, just before we wind up, I've got a few travel questions for you, a few fun questions. What's been the best destination you've ever visited?
All right, so I've been thinking about this one because April is my month, right? April is my birthday month, and so every April for almost my entire life, I have traveled, and we go amazing places. And so this month has been really hard because all my travel memories are popping up on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah. So I was talking to my best friend about this because she's my travel buddy, and we were like, so where was our favorite place? Like, what was the best? And not because we got ourselves into trouble, but because what was the best, right? We went to Sri Lanka last year, and Sri Lanka was incredible. Now, we were there during the bombings. They were literally, the bombings happened while we were landing at the airport. I don't know if we would loved Sri Lanka as much had there been as many people. I don't like being around a lot of people. And I was a little bit worried about Sri Lanka because of all the people. I could never go to India. It would do my head in. Sri Lanka is incredible. The people are the most nicest, amazing people. The countryside is incredible. The food is highly recommend. People have to go to Sri Lanka. Otherwise, it's Iceland. I love Iceland. It was pretty cool there too.
Right. Now, your most emotional travel experience?
That would probably be Cuba. So I'm really lucky in that I have an Australian passport as well as an American passport. Okay. So I call myself Textralian. Now, Americans are not allowed to go to Cuba, right? But Australians are. So my best friend, who is also Textralian, she and I decided that we were going to go to Cuba for my birthday a few years ago. We both speak Spanish, right? We grew up in Texas. We'll be fine, we said to ourselves. Until we decided to buy some cigars that ended up being black market. I don't know. We ended up inside a Cuban jail on the other side of a wall, not speaking Spanish, but thinking we did until yeah.
So that got pretty emotional, no doubt, being in jail.
It did, because we're just like, what did we do? We don't understand. And then this like other guy, and to this day, we don't know why he was in the prison, but he was like, do you want me to translate for you? And we were like, yes, please, finally, someone. And then we all realized that why we were in jail was for a stupid reason, for buying cigars, and that we'd been trying to be swindled.
Oh, what a great story. It wouldn't have been great at the time. I mean, at the time you would have thought, just before that, you would have thought, what a great loophole to get in there to Cuba. But then to have that happen, that's amazing. How long were you in jail for?
Just an hour.
Oh, okay. But at least you can say you've been there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, both Jessica and I, we've been in a few predicaments like that. We are dangerous to travel with.
Now, where are you off to next after we finish lockdown?
Okay,
where's the first place?
Well, Jess and I were talking about this because, we don't know. We don't know. Like, so maybe Galapagos. I'd love to go to the Galapagos Islands, or I know, completely random, Moscow. That would be cool.
All right.
We don't know. There's too many options. This is the problem. The world is too big, and I'm in love with travel. So I don't know where to go. How about you? Where are you going?
Well, I think probably somewhere in Australia to start off with, obviously. I think we're going to, it's hard to know how long it's going to be before we can sort of travel abroad again. But I was listening to a podcast actually on my walk yesterday, and I've been to Uluru probably 3 times, and I think I want to go back there. I've got this need to go back there again. I am always overwhelmed with the place. Hamilton Island also very well could be on my next holiday list, because I love Hamilton Island. But somewhere where I have not been, I've flown into the airport and I've flown out again, is Perth and Western Australia. So I think I would love to, and I've got a lot of clients that have accommodation, obviously, of all sorts, right throughout WA. So I think that would be my next destination.
Awesome. Yeah, not going to lie, WA is awesome.
It looks beautiful. It does, and I'm ashamed actually that I haven't been there yet, and really enjoyed it. But sometimes people think, you've got a travel website and you travel everywhere, but you don't. There's been a lot of, often I'm stuck at my desk, but I might have a lot of interstate flights to Sydney, and often on the Gold Coast with family. But no, I have to get over to WA.
Yeah, look, it's amazing. I lived in Broome when I was a backpacker, and Broome will always have a special place in my heart, up in the top northwest. Exmouth is incredible with the whale sharks. Down south in Margaret River. But I have to tell you, I've been really lucky. I've lived a lot of places in this world, and there's no better place to live than WA. We have the best beaches 20 minutes from the city. We have, not too many people. We have incredible produce. It's just, and we look at what's happening with COVID, like we basically have no cases anymore. You know what I mean? Like WA is incredible. And I probably, when you asked me where am I traveling, I should have been a good Australian, a good West Australian, and said, in my backyard, of course. Because it is WA, what we have here is just, it's incredible. Australia is an incredible country, and Uluru, you're right, I've only been there once, but breathtaking. And I think that, we need to get out there and explore our own backyard and look at this beautiful country that we have. There's so many operators that are going to be struggling after all this. We need to be supporting them.
We do. And listen, what's next on the agenda for Meg Coffey for the remainder of 2020 for work?
Oh, I wish I knew. Look, it's really, we're taking everything that we do online. A lot of, social media Perth, we do workshops, we do face-to-face training. That's what I do all day, every day, is I teach people how to use social media. So taking that all online, figuring out how to do that online, that's easy for people, that's inexpensive, because people just don't have the funds like they used to. And then hopefully getting to the other side of this as soon as possible and focusing on State of Social. We've got to make it a big, raging success this year.
Well, I wish you all the best, Meg. And thank you so much for joining me on I'll Meet You in the Lobby Lockdown. And you've been marvellous. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to chat today.